welcome to this episode of For Traveling Teens. Today you're going to meet Sophia. You're going to hear some of her amazing stories of the 17 states and 3 countries that she's been to. She's been ziplining in Costa Rica and has swam with manta rays in Hawaii. She also saw a bear while hiking in Canada. Stick around after her episode to hear more about the history of ziplining and some possible zip lines for you to add to your wander list from around the world. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode. I have with me today Sophia. Hey, Sophia.
Hi.
Hi, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you. Can you just introduce yourself to us?
Okay, my name is Sophia. I am 12 years old and I live in the United States.
Oh, very good. So, Sophia, why do you like to travel?
I really like to travel because I get to see new things and I get to see how other people get to live. And it makes me learn about different things because whenever I go on a trip, I always get to learn about new things.
Cool. So you enjoy kind of learning about different people and cultures?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So is it like something that you enjoy doing, or is it something like your parents make you do?
No, I really enjoy learning about how other people get to live and like what they need to do to make a living and how like things just differ on like your climate or where you live. And
Awesome. Those are really great answers. I love learning all of those things too. So that's really great. What is your favorite way to travel? Is it boat, car, RV, bus?
I've really never traveled by like RV or bus. I like traveling by plane because like we get to go farther and get to see new places. But cars are also really fun, like doing the road trips and like just traveling throughout the United States and other areas.
Do you have any siblings that you have to travel with when you're in the car?
I have one older sister and one younger sister.
And how is that in the car? Is it still fun or is it?
It's still fun at some point. Sometimes when we're road tripping, like if we don't have to fly there and rent a car, we have like 3 rows so we can be more separated. But when we have a rental car and it's only like 2 rows and we're all smushed in the back seat, it kind of gets a little hectic sometimes.
I am sure. So, how many states, countries, places have you been to already?
I think I've been to like 17 states and 3 countries, not
Ooh,
counting the United States.
that's awesome. So 17 states. That's a lot of states so far. Have you done that primarily by road trip?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And what 3 countries have you been to?
Canada, Costa Rica, and Mexico.
I'm so jealous that you've been to Costa Rica. I'm hoping that just some of your stories will be from there because I am obsessed and cannot wait to go. So, why do you think it's important for tweens and teens to travel away from their home?
I think it's really important for them to learn what it's like outside of their little bubble. And because there's really nothing that's really tying them down besides school, they can just get up and leave if they want to. And they don't really have to worry about that. But I think it's just really important for them to learn about what's, outside of their area.
Hey. And so, yeah, I think that's awesome too. And we've heard that through the podcast again and again, different young people who would all agree with you, who would say that, yeah, it's really important that you get out and learn more about the outside world, more about different places and different people. So what is your biggest travel dream? Where can you not wait to go?
So our next trip that we're planning is like like all the old places in Europe. But so that like dream is like almost like I don't know, checked off the list. I've also really wanted to go like Africa and like see down there, and Australia would be super cool to go to.
So I have been to Rwanda in Africa, and I've seen the mountain gorillas there. And I have been to Australia twice now. And so I can definitely agree with you that those are amazing places to go. Where in Africa are you interested in? Do you have anywhere particular in mind?
Not really. I just really want to go on a safari. That'd be super cool. Just see all the animals that are there that are super cool that we don't have here in the United States.
Yes, I have not been on a safari either. All I did when we were there was go see the mountain gorillas, which is a pretty special activity. But definitely, I would love to go back and see some of those other African animals that we kind of all imagine when we think of Africa. And what are you most excited about with the idea of Australia?
Um, I really want to go to the Great Barrier Reef, which is super cool. And like the animals there too, and like just the weather is really nice there because we live in like the colder part of the United States, and Australia just sounds really cool to me.
Cool. So I've also been to the Great Barrier Reef. We did a trip out there while we were in Australia last time. And so here is my tip for you, for everyone listening. I don't think I've mentioned this in a previous episode, and if I have, I do apologize for telling the same story again. I try and keep track of my stories, but um, you have to be brave when you go to the Great Barrier Reef, okay? Because what's going to happen is you're going to be at the boat, and they're going to tell you you can swim like 250 yards from the boat. They're going to be like, you can swim all the way out there. And I was like, I am not swimming away from this boat. Like, it is terrifying enough. I am out in the ocean. I'm having all of these fears about all of these animals that are living in the ocean because basically you're kind of at, like, if you've ever seen Finding Nemo, you're kind of at the drop off, right? So you're at the edge of the reef. Well, it didn't occur to me that the further away you swim from the boat, the more shallow and on the reef you're going to be. So I stayed near the boat because I was afraid and I could see things, but I would have apparently seen all the things if I'd actually gotten brave and swam away from the boat towards the reef. Only one
Yeah,
couple of everybody on our boat swam over to the reef, and they had these amazing pictures and amazing experiences. And then there's me in the deep water being like, I don't want to get eaten by a shark, except that, hello, you're where the sharks are. It was terrible. So
that
that's
would
my
be me too. I'd be like hand on the boat the entire time. I'm not floating away.
right. That's exactly. And I was like, I can't believe they let you go that far. It just did not, in the anxiety and excitement of it all, it just, my like rational brain of like, the reef is over there. The boat can't go on the reef. You've got to swim over there. I wish that so one day I hope to go back and redo it. If you have never seen a quokka, that is an animal that they have in Australia. It is literally the cutest animal you have ever seen in your whole life. That is my next travel dream to Australia, is to go to Rottnest Island where the quokkas live. That's Quokka. And after we are finished with our interview, Sophia, you've definitely got to go and Google the quokka because they're super
Is
cute.
it a water animal or a land
No, they're a land animal and they have the cutest little face you have ever seen.
animal?
Crazy. You're going to be deceased from
Yeah.
cuteness. That's just what's going to happen to you. So tell your mom I'm sorry that I killed you with cuteness of the quokka. But enough about me and all of my travel advice on being too scared to swim in the Great Barrier Reef. I want to hear advice from you. So how much input do you have or do you like to have when you travel with your family?
So I really just listen in on my parents when they're traveling. Not traveling. They're planning the trip,
Mhm.
and I kind of just listen in like where we're going, and then I kind of just like go on Google Maps and like look at the area, and then I look up on the internet like what should I do when I'm going here, and usually like I don't know, some of the stuff happens, but I really like knowing about the place before I go and like what's there, that what should I try and twist my mom's arm to go and see.
I love that.
So
It's definitely, I have to do that too. When we're planning, is like, how many of these amazingly cool things can I add in? I, as you can already tell, am animal obsessed. So because of that, I always want to do all the animal things. And my husband's like, literally, it's another animal.
it's
So
just another
he's a good sport for a long time. But so then what are you looking for in locations when you go and you Google, when you hear your parents say we're going to Costa Rica and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, Costa Rica. What do you go and Google? Do you go and look for food, amusement parks, cultural sites, beaches? I know you mentioned you live somewhere cold, so you like the warm. Like, what sort of things float your boat when you're traveling? What are you looking to do?
I really like food and like all that. We just went to Mexico, so and Mexican is one of my favorite types of food, and so that was really good food there. I really like looking for and beaches, always beaches, and just like when we went to Costa Rica, we did like this zip lining thing, which was super cool, and we did something like that in Mexico. But I like the adventures stuff too, like in the nature, like hikes too. I like looking for hikes.
I love that. So you love hiking, you love adventurous things. So you're not afraid of heights.
No, not really.
Good. That
Um,
makes one of us.
we've been we've been camping since I don't know, like 2015, and so like I don't know, 3 years ago we went up to Glacier, and when we went into Waterton in Canada, we went on this hike and we were like on this cliff edge, and like you could see the people on the other side of the canyon, and they were yelling at us to like because I was already freaked out because we were like on like holding on to this wire, and they were yelling at us something, and then all of a sudden this bear popped out of nowhere, and that and then yeah, it was really scary because we were on like this cliff. Like my little sister was crying because it was very I was almost crying. It was very scary, and yeah, it
So
was.
this cliff edge, is this like where you go out to the cliff edge, or is this where part of the hike is that you have to like inch along this cliff edge with a wire? Like what was the situation?
It was like, so you walk up the first like 4 miles and then you crawl through this cave. It's not like a cave, I don't like a tunnel in this rock that's man-made. And then you like get on this cliff edge that has like this much foot room, a
Oh,
foot, and then you like hold on to the wire and you like shimmy across for like, I don't know, 30 yards maybe. And then you got to go up to this beautiful lake. It's called Crypt Lake hike. And so when we finished, we got this little stuffed animal bear and we named it Crypt, and we took a whole bunch of pictures of it on the hike because we just thought it was really funny that we saw that bear. It wasn't funny at the moment, but
so listener, you cannot see that my face is aghast at this like picture. So she said they have about a foot that you have to like inch along for like 30 yards holding onto this wire. Now, here's my question. Do you have to go back the same way you came, or is it like a one way out?
you have to go back the same
Oh, so
way.
you have to do that twice.
Yeah. And we
That
saw it
is
on the second time. And when we got up to the lake, which was like not even 30 yards after that, um, my mom was just worried the entire time, like we're gonna have to go back because there you have to boat across to get to this hike, and it like closed at a certain time, and then we still had 5 miles to get back. And so then we did that, and we made the boat in time. But we
your your family is so adventurous. This is like one of the most exciting stories I've heard so far in all of my interviews. Like this is awesome. The highlight for me would have been the bear because as I said before, animal obsessed. My husband would probably be trying to hold on to me so that I'm not trying to pet the bear because that's just the kind of nonsensical thing that I would be like, "Oh, it's a bear. Let me take its picture." And he'd be like, "You're on the edge of this cliff and you need whatever." But I'm terrified of heights. So the thought of being up high and all that I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is just I'm on
it's
the
not
edge
like
of my seat listening to your story. It's amazing."
it's not like right on this cliff edge. It's like it goes up, and then you have like this cliff, and then it goes like down. It's like a whole bunch of gravel.
Okay.
So it's not like straight drop off, but you would definitely you wouldn't feel good if you fell.
Don't worry, Sophia. You are still infinitely braver than me. I mean, I recently almost cried having to go up a ladder at Bandelier National Park. Like it's very heights are very stressful for me. So no worries. My husband was like, so you're almost there. I'm like, stop talking to me. I have to focus as I'm like 6 feet above the ground. Like it's ridiculous.
Literally, when I was on there, I like zoomed through it so fast because I'm like, I just gotta get this over with. Yeah.
That sounds like a really great tip for dealing with things that you're anxious about. We're going to come back to that a little bit later. So I can't wait to hear more about that. So when you're going on these trips, what are your must-haves? I mean, obviously we all know we need, like clothes and food and stuff, but like when you're going to go somewhere, what is your like must have, must pack these things?
Um, like I always have music and books and movies always downloaded. And even if I'm going somewhere really warm, I always bring a sweatshirt. I always wear the sweatshirt because it's cold here, and I wear it to the airport because it takes up too much space in the suitcase. And I always bring a sweatshirt because there's always that one night where it's like 50 degrees and it's cold and windy. And I always bring a swimsuit, even if we're going somewhere cold, because who knows where that pop-up pool might be.
Yes, that is excellent advice. Honestly, everything you're saying here is like, it's amazing advice. So here's my follow-up question for you about flying. Do you have like, I don't mean like a flight suit, like like a jumper or anything. Do you have like a set outfit that you wear just about every time you fly, or is it just kind of whatever in the sweatshirt?
Um, it's not like the same stuff. It's like always a sweatshirt, a t-shirt with leggings, and my tennis shoes because those take up the biggest amount of space in the suitcase.
Very, very wise. Do you all typically with your family, do you all typically just try and bring carry-ons, or do you bring other suitcases and carry-ons?
It depends on if like checked bags or whatever, or I don't know. But me and my sister used to have these tiny ones. Me and
Mhm.
my younger sister, because our clothes are smaller. But we all just upgraded to carry-ons this last trip we took. But we have this huge um checked bag that we sometimes bring, but I don't think we might ever go back to that.
Very smart. I will say, we used to pack a lot of stuff. We try really hard now to really keep it to a carry-on. So like even when we went to Australia for a month, we tried to keep it to basically a carry-on. Like we
Yeah.
tried really hard, and then pick places where we can like wash clothes and stuff if we're going to travel for a long time. Because honestly, listeners, carry-on is the way to go. Unless you really need the big bag, it is just a pain.
Yeah.
For sure. I have a whole like I have to wear like leggings or like yoga pants, t-shirt, sweatshirt. I usually, like you said, I personally like to wear flip-flops. So I make sure I have flip-flops with me, but I also have my tennis shoes because I need to get up on the plane, but I don't want to have to put my tennis shoes back on. It's a whole thing. And then I have like extra socks to keep my feet warm, but I generally don't like socks. So if I can live my life with socks on, it makes me very happy. So
I live in socks.
yes. So, but ain't nobody want to go down to the airport, the airplane bathroom in their socks. So always wear your shoes for sure. All right. So now that we've kind of been talking about like some of your stories and stuff, what is your favorite trip memory?
I don't know. They're all really fun. I just but it's probably like because you always remember like the funny bad memories, like when you pop a tire on like a random Sunday in the middle of Yellowstone and you have to drive to this random Walmart in a donut tire and wait there for like 5 hours to get your tire fixed. Like it's like always like the funny stuff, but that's not my favorite one. It's always so when we went to Hawaii, we did this really cool like manta ray thing. Like you like held on to these surfboards like at like 8 o'clock, so it was pitch black, and like these like it was like really deep water, and you were just holding on, and you just like saw some manta rays flying, like not flying, swimming underwater, and it was super cool.
That is amazing. So, how do you see them? Like, it's dark out. Like, do you guys have like headlamps on? Or, like, what's the deal? Are they in like
It was like
bioluminescent water? Like, what's the deal?
they were like huge flashlights off these not I, sure flashlights coming off of these surfboards with these handles, and you had your snorkel gear on, and you were like holding on, and it was freezing out, and you're in like one of those full swimsuits, like legs, arms, one piece, and you're just looking down and it's freezing in the water. It's like so cold, and you're like shaking because like you're nervous because it's like 40 feet under you of just water and it's freezing. um but yeah, it was super cool. I definitely took in a good amount of salt water that night just from gasping. Be like, oh, look at that.
That is a really cool story. So, did you see any sharks?
No.
Okay.
We were in this like bay thing where what are they called? Stingrays. Manta rays. The manta rays like come into because they always have to swim to like live because
Mhm.
like they have their gills or whatever. And this is one of the only spots in the world where they can like stop moving because Hawaii has like the volcanic activity, so they're very attracted to there. I also have like a lot of more trip memories. I just I can't remember.
Well, do you have one from this most recent trip you took to Mexico? Do you have a fun memory that you'd like to share from that?
A fun. They're all really good. Um, I don't really. It's not. So like this is like so when we flew there, there was like this island. I forgot. There was like an island right off of. I think it's by Cancun. I don't know. Remember what it's called. And like you could just see like the reef or whatever. It's the reef, and you could just see like the light blue water in the airplane, and it was super super cool. And like that's the first time I've ever seen really light blue water like that, like in the ocean,
Yeah.
and that was super cool. And to light blue water, when we went to Glacier, there's all the water from the glacier makes this really light blue water. And when we went on this hiking trail, the water was so like milky blue and it was so pretty. It was the prettiest water I've ever seen. And then we like hiked up to this lake and it was called like Iceberg Lake and there was just icebergs on it and like it was like 80-degree it was 80-degree weathers that's like 50-degree weathers and there was like icebergs and it was really crazy.
That sounds amazing. So, question about Glacier. Did you go to the beach with all the colored rocks? Did you guys
I
go
don't think so.
there? Okay. Because there's like a special beach with like rainbow pebbles on it. So, the other question that I have, so I loved your water story. That is beautiful because I've definitely like, I love that moment too. You mentioned going to Costa Rica and you mentioned ziplining. Did you happen to do
Oh yeah.
anything with sloths in Costa Rica?
So sloths are one of like my favorite animals, and we were really hoping to see a sloth, like a wild sloth, not just one of these. And what was that place called? There's like a park that has like sloths that are like very much populated there. And we were going to go there on like the second to last day of like the place that we were staying at. And we like looked it up to see what the hours were, and we saw that it was closed the day that we were going to go.
Oh
So we didn't get to see sloths there. But then we ended up going to like this like zoo thing, but like for like animals that were hurt or whatever. So we saw some sloths in a cage, but that's just not the same as seeing a sloth in the
I know. I agree.
wild.
But it sounds like they were in a safe like sanctuary or refuge for them. So
Yeah, they were.
cool. All right. Well, those are some awesome trip memories. Do you have a worst trip memory that you feel comfortable sharing?
Nothing really that bad besides the one with the tire where we were like in the middle of Yellowstone. We were going to Devil's Tower, and yeah, that one was kind of really bad because we had to like wait at this gas station for this because it was a Sunday and no one was working on a Sunday. It's like Yellowstone, so there's like 3 tow truck drivers or whatever. And so we waited because we popped our tire right next to the gas station. So we waited at this gas station for like 2 hours. And then they finally came and then we had to ride to this Walmart on a donut tire, which took like, we had to go like 50 miles an hour. And we had to wait at this random Walmart for like 3 hours for them to fix our tire.
Oh gosh.
It was,
Oh,
there I had something in my mind and now I forgot it.
okay.
Oh, yes. When we were in Costa Rica, our rental car, it like wasn't ready or something. So we had to wait there for like 4 hours at just like rental car place. And that one was it kind of just like stuff where you have to miss or like we could have done some super cool stuff, but we just had to miss it because the rental car wasn't ready.
Oh, bummer. That is the worst. Oh, thank you so much for sharing those stories. They're definitely no fun and pretty common, you know, every time you travel, something happens. For
Yeah.
us, we were in Australia and we rented a car and there was a
Oh
hailstone,
no.
and the hailstones were like the size of golf balls. So we were at our friends who live in Melbourne's house, and it tore up the net over their trampoline. It tore up like all the leaves and everything around because it was like summertime, and then it beat into our rental car dents, and it was
Oh.
$3,000 worth of damage. Like, thank goodness we had insurance, but it was good. We were gonna have to like pay that out of pocket if like it hadn't been covered. and it basically like wrote off the car. It was like, oh, that is just the kind of stuff that just happens sometimes. And so, yeah, I totally can relate to that being just the worst.
But
For sure.
sometimes, yeah, sometimes like your favorite memories, like the bear one, like that was scary at the moment, but sometimes those end up being your favorite memories. You can only get, my mom always says, like, you can only get the good things with a reasonable amount of suffering to get there. And like you always remember the bad stuff, like when someone throws up in the car because they ate too many Twinkies, or just the random stuff that's just always funny.
So that Twinkie thing sounds like a real story. Is that one of your siblings maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, we won't shame them and say which one, but yeah, okay.
Um, we were going up to like this lookout in Yellowstone, and my grandpa got us a whole bunch of goldfish and Twinkies for our road trip there. And I think she ate like 6 Twinkies and like a lot of food. And so when we got up there, she's like, I don't feel good. And so we tried to get to the bathroom, but her door, because we have a van that has automatic doors, it wouldn't open. So
No.
so she just puked out the window, like while
Oh no.
the car was
Oh,
still driving. It
oh no.
was kind of funny for me, but it was not funny for her.
Definitely not. No, no, no. So, um, you've shared a lot of really amazing stories so far. And you said at the beginning that you really like to check out what food there's going to be. So, are you
Yeah.
an adventurous eater?
60% of the time, I would say. Um, I'll always try stuff, but if it's anything really to do with seafood, which I really don't like I'll like try a little bite of it, but I don't know. My dad, I think it's called like poke in Hawaii. It's like uncooked fish. He got that, and like I would not eat it. But there was like octopus one time, and I like took a small bite of it because my parents didn't tell me what it was. And I'm like, ooh, this is really good. I'm like, what is it? And they're like octopus. I'm like, oh, I didn't think it would taste that good, but okay.
So, what is the best or worst thing you've ever tried?
The best thing I've ever tried. Everything's always really good. And so when we were in Costa Rica, this is the worst thing I've ever tried. We were just like, we had like 2 hours to wait, and we were driving back to our hotel, and we saw this sign. It's like something's ice cream and pizza. I forgot what it's called. So we followed these signs for like, I don't know, 30 minutes to find this random little store tucked behind like these businesses. We went in there, we ordered ice cream, like hard scoop, because our traditions, we always order hard scoop because where we live doesn't really have a lot of hard scoop, and we love hard scoop ice cream. So we ordered hard scoop ice cream, and so in the warmer areas, they don't use milk in their ice cream. They use water in their ice cream, and I didn't know that, and it was probably like I was expecting some delicious, really like creamy ice cream, and I got like this. It's almost like a slushy ice cream, and I got like a really weird flavor, which I didn't really like, and it was probably like the worst thing I've ever eaten.
As a lover of ice cream, I too would have been completely like, yes, let's try the ice cream, let's do the thing for sure. So when you say hard scoop ice cream, just to clarify for any listeners from around the world, so there are usually like, I just want to clarify that it's the right kind that I'm thinking of. There's usually soft serve, which is usually like kind of swirly, and again, it's kind of almost yogurty and soft and cold. Are you talking about then where it's you use like an ice cream scoop and like scoop it out?
Yeah,
Okay.
like, and they have like those big tubs, and they scoop it out into like a waffle cone or something.
Yes, perfect. So that was the worst thing because you were expecting one thing and
Yeah.
really not that. Okay. Yeah. So I had an experience like that in Bali, not with ice cream. So they said the whole time when we got there, you must try the babi guling. That's what they kept saying. And we were like, okay, babi guling. So we asked our driver one day, we had gotten a gentleman to take us to a couple of different places off resort. We don't actually stay at resorts very often, but we were there for a special occasion. So we were at a resort. And we ordered the babi guling, and they said it was suckling pig, and it did not occur to me why. I don't know. I thought that was like more of like a preparation, like jerk chicken, right? Like seasonings and whatever. No, suckling pig is baby pig. It's pig that's that's like suckling on its mother still, like it's a little baby pig. And so I finished and I was like, that was amazing. It was so delicious. And then like a day or two later, I went, oh my gosh, that was piglets. Like it was, I had a real moment with that, where I really was like super excited and then was like, ah, ah, it's a delicacy
Um,
there, and it's definitely delicious. I'm not a big pork eater in general, but it's definitely delicious. But it did not occur to me until later that like that wasn't a seasoning, that was a type of thing. So I
yeah.
can relate to your ice cream story for sure. So how do you deal with fear or anxiety when something comes up that you're not really sure about? Like you seem fine with heights, but maybe seafood or maybe not knowing where you're going or not speaking the language. Like how do you deal with that?
Um, so like going somewhere where I don't speak the language is okay because I know we'll always be able to translate somehow if that's using an app on your phone or just finding someone that speaks English. But like not knowing where I am, I kind of get like butterflies in my stomach, but I know that like we'll always find a way out somehow. um, I if I get lost like alone, I like even like in just a random Target and I just like lose my mom. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. I
This
just
is it. I'm alone in the world now.
I'm alone. And I always get like very butterflies and I'm like, oh my God. Um, but like adventuring stuff, I usually get pretty scared for that stuff. But like as soon as like I like start, like for that ziplining thing I did in Costa Rica, they like you like were in a harness and they like pushed you out into the middle of like this small canyon thing and you like have to like rappel down in like the middle and like I was like freaking out and I'm like oh my God and like sometimes like I have to go first so I can't see anyone else do this and then I didn't go first but um I did that and I'm like oh this is so much fun and then the rest of the time I was like I got this. You just have to yeah, I you just have to do the first step and then the rest is just easy.
I love that. I'm going to need to channel my inner Sophia from here on out. Take the first step and then everything else is easy. I'll just tell myself that again and again and again. Cause I tell you, I'm always the last one. And at the zip lines in Jamaica, I got the nickname Chicken Lady. So, cause I was screaming on the zip line and people were like looking at me like, what is wrong with her? Cause I was like, just all the way across. Yeah. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. So that's really great advice. I love that. Just take the first step. And after that, have fun with it. I love it.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for maybe the adults in your life, your parents, or maybe if you've ever gone like on a school trip, that you want them to know when they're planning a trip with or for teens and tweens?
Like I would think like you don't have to plan every single moment of every single day. Just like the weird stuff that you find like along the way is just perfect. Like when we were in Mexico, we went to like this Chichen Itza and someone requested us to go to this restaurant. And then at the restaurant, they gave us these tickets to go to cenote. And like that was probably the coolest thing I did there. And um it's just the random stuff that you do, which is super cool because just yeah, finding that random restaurant that had really good food or just that random place on the highway with the random lookout is the super cool stuff.
I love that. That's really awesome advice. You are very wisdomous, Sophia. I'm really enjoying this. So finally, let's say there are some tweens and teens who came across this podcast and they're like, man, this travel thing. I mean, the interviewees seem excited about it, but I'm not so sure. So what would you say for other tweens or teens who aren't really sure if travel is for them?
I don't know, just go on one trip and just do it. Just go on one trip. It doesn't even have to be like a really fancy trip to Hawaii or something. Just go on like just one trip, like I don't know, just a small trip, and like you could figure out if it's for you or not. But I don't really know.
That's great advice. So just give it a try, even something small, because you might find that you really love it, right?
go camping or something.
Yeah, well, in my opinion, don't go camping because you probably won't love that. I don't love camping, so my advice would don't go camping unless that sounds really exciting. Because frankly, camping is it's horrible. Mr. Steven and I went camping one time. My husband Steven, we went camping one time, and it was the very first time and last time that we went camping together. And we left a day early because we were like, if we leave right now, we can just go sleep in our bed instead of having to sleep here in this tent for the third night in a row. So I'm not a good advisor for all things camping for sure.
We went camping in a tent like 4 times, and like after our fourth time, we're like, no, we're buying a camper. A camper with air conditioning, beds, and heating. And yeah.
Did your family do that? Do you guys have a camper now?
Yeah, we have just a small pop-up camper.
That's
And
awesome.
it works way better than a tent because we got rained out in the tent once.
Oh gosh, that's always the worst. Well, that is so cool. Well, I'm glad your family did that. So your family enjoys camping quite a bit then.
Yes.
Cool.
It's not the mosquitoes.
Oh, nobody likes the mosquitoes. No, no, no. So a previous interview, I believe it's episode 5, Adam goes on and on about how much he hates the bugs and how he really loved going to Tennessee because there weren't too many bugs there. So for sure, I'm with everybody on the bugs are some of the worst part of camping. If you can deal with the bugs and get something that's not a cold tent in the ground, then maybe camping is for you. Well, Sophia, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I have loved listening to your stories and all of your great advice. So thank you so much.
Thank you. This was really fun.
In today's episode, you met Sophia, and she shared about going ziplining in Costa Rica. Now, I am actually not someone who is a huge fan of heights, but I do recognize that a lot of other people, especially young people, love adventurous things like that. So today I'm going to share a little bit about the history of ziplining, and I'm going to share the top zip lines in the world according to backpackertravel.org. And I will also add a link to that in the show notes for you so you can find those zip lines as well. Zip lines were actually used in the Nuchang Valley of China in the Yunnan province. It's still considered remote today, but they've been replaced with bridges and modern options because people have been using zip lines for centuries. It was used for transportation of people and goods to remote mountainous areas around the world. As Australia was colonized, settlers used zip lines to avoid new animal species, which, if you know about Australia, has a lot of animal species, and to get items over the rivers. Mountain climbers have been using zip lines to get back and forth, particularly between 2 steep locations, for a really long time. And in 1897, H.G. Wells referred to a zip line, which he called an incline strong, in his book, The Invisible Man. Today, zip lines are considered eco-friendly because you can see the landscape without actually touching it. So they're kind of a great way to have some eco-friendly tourism in an area. So 2 zip lines that I have been on is one in Jamaica. And I'm sorry, I looked everywhere and I couldn't actually find the location of the zip line that I did, but I went on a zip line in Jamaica. It was about 6 or 7 zips up in the canopy, but it was over the resort. And so as you heard during my mention with Sophia, I got the nickname Chicken Lady because I was so terrified all the time. Another time that I went ziplining is underground ziplining in Kentucky at Mega Caverns. Now that I actually, even though I was nervous, I really enjoyed it because I couldn't see as much. So I was able to have my eyes open, but I didn't have to see the ground and kind of be worried about that. And I was able to look around at the cavern and kind of take in that experience rather than being afraid of being up so high. So now let me tell you, according to Backpacker Travel, the list of the top zip lines in the world. Now, I will tell you, most of these do not interest me at all because they are incredibly fast. That is one of the things I hate most about a zip line. And in Jamaica, I had to slow my own self down so that the guys could catch you at the other end. Some places have like an automated braking system, but sometimes it's a manual braking system. So you wear gloves and you kind of tap down on top of the zip line to slow yourself down. Well, when your eyes are closed, you don't know when they're telling you to brake. So it's really important if they're telling you it's a manual zip that you keep your eyes open so that you can make sure that you brake yourself in time so that you don't come crashing into the lovely Jamaican men that are catching you on the other end. So the first zip that they recommend is in Sun City, South Africa. It is the Zip 2000. As of the writing of this article, it is the world's longest zip. It is in Sun City, South Africa, and it descends at speeds of up to 100 miles per hour. I don't even really want to go 100 miles per hour in a car. I definitely don't want to zip that fast. But for you adventure lovers out there, I'm sure it sounds amazing. Next up is Icy Strait Point in Alaska. This zip takes 90 seconds to complete its 1,300-foot vertical drop at 24 degrees. So fairly steep zip there. There's also the Pene Adventura Park, which is in Portugal. They call this the Fantasticable, which is like a fantastic cable. And it is a cable that connects Lamales and Bustelo. It has a top speed of 130 kilometers an hour. So probably somewhere between 75 and 85 miles per hour. And it is considered the largest fantastic cable in the world. There is also Toro Verde Nature Adventure Park that is in Puerto Rico. This one lets you experience ziplining on your tummy, like on your chest and waist, looking down rather than sitting up. Oftentimes when you zip, you're sitting up. In this case, you're laying down on your tummy and kind of flying like a bird or like Superman. Again, I don't know how I feel about that because I barely want to look around. I much less do not want to look at the ground wondering what would happen. In Colombia, they have the Finca Mi Universo zipline. That is South America's longest zip line in Colombia, and it zips twice across a gorge. Now, this one actually sounds kind of pretty. This is the Kahopokoni, which is in Hawaii. And the Kapohine offers views of waterfalls, and it's about 160 feet above 14 other waterfalls as well, which I think sounds amazing. There is the Heavenly Flyer in Tahoe. That's in California, Lake Tahoe. It is a 525-foot vertical drop over 80 seconds and reaches 50 miles an hour. Again, probably not for me so much. I'm more of your slow, long, scenic zip than your super fast zipper. There's the Skyrider Tour in Hunter Mountain in the United States, and it is the second largest in North America, 600 feet above the ground. Again, that's at the writing of this article. It may have changed since then. I also went to the Whitewater Rafting Center in North Carolina, where they had a really cool zip line. I did not end up going on it, but my best friend did, and she really enjoyed it. So, there are zip lines all over the place, and it's definitely worth finding ones that you enjoy if you like this kind of thing. There's the Zip Zone in the Philippines, and this is Asia's longest zip, and it's dual carrying cables, meaning kind of two of you are able to go. And it has an elevation drop of 100 meters and speeds between 60 and 100 kilometers per hour, which is, no, thank you. Still too fast for me. There is the Dragon's Breath in Haiti. It is the longest zip over water, and it runs to the beach down below. There's also the Skyline zip line in Calgary, Canada. You actually ride in a comfortable harness and fly on a unique cable system. So it has a place for like your hands on top, and you're kind of sitting in this harness. It goes from like a ski jump tower. And so the jump is actually 550 meters long. And it reaches speeds between 120 and 140 kilometers per hour. They also mentioned the River Valley Ranch in Maryland, which is located at a summer camp. So again, if you're looking for places to go as a young person, camps can be a great way to experience ziplining very early on. Or there's a company called Go Ape. We experienced them first in the UK and then here in the United States. And I think they're, again, another good introductory option for ziplining before you get into some of these massive zips. The final one they list here is zipping over the Great Wall of China. Once you hike along it, you can zip over a lake down to the car park. So not only do you get to see the amazingness of the Great Wall of China, but you also get to do a zip line. They have a bonus one from Costa Rica called the Sky Trek. Now, I don't know if that's the one Sophia did or not, but this is an open air gondola first, and then you get dropped off at an observation area, and then you zip track over canyons and through the treetops, which looking at the beautiful rainforest in Costa Rica, I'm sure might be a way to try and find those elusive wild sloths that Sophia was looking for during her time in Costa Rica. So that's a little bit about the history of ziplining and a few possible zip lines to add to your wander list. If you know awesome zip lines and you want to share your stories with us, here on the podcast, please reach out at thetravelingteach.com/contact. And if you loved today's episode, please consider leaving a review wherever you are listening so that other teens and tweens can find our podcast. I'm Shae Pepper, the Traveling Teach. At the time of this recording, I am on a 5-year, 50-state road trip around the US, although with COVID, it's going to end up being 6 or 7 years. Darn you, COVID. But I travel full time with my husband, Stephen, and our dog, Truffles. I'm a professional youth worker and online educator. I'm passionate about learning on location and want to bring that experience to as many young people as possible through my virtual field trips. To learn more about my travels and online classes, go to thetravelingteach.com. To follow Truffles' travels, our trip from her perspective, which I am sure is infinitely more interesting to most of you than I am, go to @TrufflesTravelsUS on Instagram. To be a guest, tween, or teen on the podcast, just reach out at thetravelingteach.com/contact. This has been an episode of For Traveling Teens, a podcast for teens and tweens who love travel, whether they're actively traveling or just dreaming.